Hello, family. This is Rachel. I'm coming on here to give my testimony on how I came from Islam back to Christianity, and I did a first attempt, but it kept getting cut off, and I just want to see if I can get through it in one thing or two instead of three. So if you can just bear with me, that would be great. I'm gonna see if I can hold the phone, or let me see if I can, because I'm in my car right now. I don't know if you'll be able to see me. Let me see. Okay. I'll just hold it like this. I should have brought my little thing to hold it. Okay. So, I'm gonna start off with my parents. Both my parents met in Holiness Church. There were tongue speaking and all of that. And it was a pretty strict home. I I really believe that I was blessed with the life that I had as a kid. It really cultivated a place where I can develop a relationship with God. One thing that I have to say that I got from both of my parents, and it's not just the only thing, but one thing from one of them was my dad was a very committed churchgoer. He was always a deacon of the church since I can remember. And that was just really beautiful to me. He seemed really committed to doing the works of God and, serving the people of God. The other thing was my mom. She was one thing that I really liked about her was she talked about her relationship with God. And that really did spark a desire for a relationship with God as well for myself. At a young age, I was so fascinated by all her stories and what she would talk about and what she would experience, and all of that was just really, really beautiful. So I started to cultivate a relationship with the Lord at a very young age. I remember even as a baby, being rocked by an invisible huge force in the air, but I knew it was God even at a young age. So I knew that he made himself real to me from the beginning. However, knowledge and learning more about him is really helps us to kind of grow in our relationship with God. And so as I grew, I remember writing love letters to the Lord, and I would leave it different places. Sometimes I would hide it under a rock. Sometimes I would put it in different places. And just like sometimes it would be right back, right before I went to school. I would take the bus in the morning, and then when I came back, it was gone. So I was so convinced that, the Lord took it and, saved those letters. um, anyways, fast forwarding, the Lord would talk to me a lot of times, and I remember around 5 years old, the Lord would just start to talk to me about certain things and the future. And one thing he did say was, my mom and dad were divorced. And I remember how hurt I was when I heard that, because I lived in kind of a fantasy world. It seemed like life was kind of perfect, for me. I mean, I wouldn't say perfect, but how a kid, their mind is. Anyways, I asked him, I said, God, how could you allow that? You're God. And, excuse me. Sorry. Anyways, I said, how can you allow that? And he didn't say anything. He didn't really respond. So I pretty much was very hurt, and I kind of stopped seeking him the way I was seeking him like before. And he kind of stopped coming the way he was coming to me before. So, but I started having dreams around, 5 years old, right when I got that word, that we would all separate as a family. And every night I had it until they did divorce at 9 years old, and when I was 9 years old. But every night I knew I was going to have the same dream, and I would try to plan different things to change the outcome of the dream. However, and I did do the things that I planned before going to bed, but it never changed the outcome. It was still the same. And to this day, that dream still reigns true. We've all been kind of separated and things like that. Anyway, I pray that that season will be over soon, and that we would unite as a family. Anyways, skipping forward, so they divorced when I was 9. I stopped being more, how can I say, relationship based, and I became more a churchgoer, just kind of going to church, doing the regular things, because my family was very active in the church. We went to go live with our dad. He moved to Ohio, which he still lives there to this day, because we kind of started off in California, Southern California. My mom stayed in California after the divorce, and we went off to Ohio to live with my dad and his parents, and our family, I should say. Anyway, I'm just gonna come out of the car just for a little bit. Get a little sun, I guess. So I don't know if you can see me. Okay. I don't know if I can tell my story out here. Well, I'll just stay and go back in my car. Just a minute. Anyway, so okay. So back to the story. I was pretty much going to church with my family, and we were just very active in the church, and we kind of had that, family support, family, what is it? Like everybody just seemed like family in the church, and it was really, really beautiful. I really liked it. However, my relationship with God did suffer, because I feel like, I don't know, I was around a lot of people who were more into church, and then on top of that, I still had possibly a resentment to God regarding the divorce, because it happened anyway. And anyways, I actually, talking about it now, I wonder why he never explained why he was allowing the divorce. I'm not sure. So anyways, fast forwarding, we stayed in Ohio, and both in that period of time, it was about 3 years, both my mom and dad remarried. And at the time my mom remarried and was going to have another baby, we went to go live with her in California. And at that time I was around 12 years old. And we went to go live in California, and I remember that time because it was so precious. It was so beautiful. The area was beautiful. We were now in Northern California. I think previously we were in Rancho Cucamonga, I think, something like that. But now we're in Northern California. It was like Sonoma County. It was beautiful, the weather, everything. And my mom, I was with my mom again, and she still had a relationship with God. And so that really did spark. And then also I kind of came to peace with what God was doing in my life. And so the relationship with God and coming to peace with what he wanted to do in my life, or what he was doing already, I guess, I just started to see God more. And it was just such a romantic time, I feel like, with all of us, because I feel like all of us were very artistic and poetic and, all of that. And so I remember writing poems and, about the Lord and just teaching people about the Lord. I just remember just loving having that relationship with God. So fast forwarding to the time of my stepdad's passing. He passed when I was like maybe 16 years old, and we kind of how can I say, went through a whole different period, where we experienced homelessness and we were going from place to place. And during that time, both me and my mom got like really close, and we would talk with each other and just try to figure out what our next steps were. And so I did try to maintain that relationship with God during that time, but it was difficult. That was a very hard time for us, and I'm skipping over so much, but I'm trying to keep it short and to the point. Maybe in another time I can maybe elaborate more in different areas, but anyways, maybe around 17 years old, my mom met Daoud. His name was Daoud, but he came to us initially as David. And the reason why I say that is he came kind of in deception. He pretty much told us that he was from France and that he was David and this and that. So him and my mom started to date. And she was really excited because my mom just kind of had a hunger for marriage. She's been a housewife most of her life, and she just wanted a certain husband, and she just made a song. Actually, it was type of like a prayer of what kind of husband she wanted. Kind of sure it wasn't Daoud. And so anyways, we did find out later on, just before their marriage, that he was Muslim and he was Algerian. So he pretty much said, if you want to marry, you need to all turn. And my mom, I remember my mom coming to me and she said, sorry, I'm itching. It's itching me. She said, how can I leave Jesus? I remember that night. But later on in the day, the next day, she came back and she said, we're going to change. And I was so surprised at how quickly she was able to change. And when I asked her, she pretty much brought a lot of points up that I feel like are still valid. Like, the Bible has been changed. People, are hypocrites, and, Christianity and all these things like that. And so, one of the things I forgot that I skipped over was during her time before Daddy Art's passing. That was my stepdad. She became very frustrated with the church, and she would as she got deeper with her relationship with God, she found out, she was like, why are Christians celebrating Christmas and Easter? And these are pagan holidays. I don't understand why they're celebrating it. And so anyway, so I didn't quite understand what she was saying. I remember I understood it, but not so much because I didn't really, and we were going to a Baptist church at the time, and she stopped going to church during that time, and she was just so frustrated, and she did get into altercations at the church. So she stopped going just before my stepdad passed. So I can understand why she maybe felt the need to change religions. I don't know. That was just one of she just gave a really good argument on why we should all change. So after her argument, we all decided to become Muslim. However, after that, and I'm skipping so much detail, but I have to say that I did not feel like Islam was any better. There were still, I think there's people in every religion that are, how can I say, that are hypocrites, and all people are people. And that was something that God had to tell me when I first was coming back to Christ, was don't look at people, look at me. And that was something that he had pretty much said, because we all need Jesus. That's why we need Jesus. We all need help. And people who don't see the fact that we need help, that is the issue. That's the problem. So moving forward, now we're all Muslim. I remember calling to tell my dad, hey, Mom's getting married, and guess what? We're all Muslim. He's like, what? And so he came down and tried to talk to my mom. It didn't go well. Anyway, so that was a long stretch of time. That was just before me going to college. I remember starting college as a Muslim. However, I was not happy. I was experiencing a lot of things in Islam, and I was just really turned off by the religion during that time. And so I was starting to move more towards being a believer and just believing in God rather than believing in Islam. During that time and college years, I remember being approached by so many people, asking me, do I know Christ? All these things. And during that time, when people would come up to me, it would make me really angry and frustrated. And I would actually try to evangelize them out of that religion, or Christianity, I should say. And it's funny because before I was Muslim, nobody ever came up to me. After I was Muslim and got saved, nobody has come up to me and asked me about. So God was definitely trying to get a hold of me. Okay, I'm trying to get maybe better lighting. I don't know. It's just, anyways, so moving forward, I think one of the things that turned me off towards Christianity when Christians did try to talk to me was the fact that I felt like they weren't super, I don't know, like I felt like I was kind of judging them and just kind of like their relationship. Or not relationship, but their walk, even though I didn't know them, but it just felt like they were, I don't know, kind of worldly or something. I don't know. Not a lot of people could talk to me as a Muslim. I knew that there were some people, and those were the ones who seemed to have a relationship with God. Because if they had known that was what was drawing me was a relationship with God, then that I think it would be it would have been a lot better to talk to me about God. If I saw that you had a relationship with God and you spoke to me about the importance of having a relationship with God, and that would have actually went over better than coming to me with any other way. And that's just the wisdom of God. Anyways, during my college years, I was Muslim. I started to get boyfriends. One particular boyfriend, and I was still living with my mom at the time. We weren't really allowed to date, but I would talk to guys sometimes when I had time, but I didn't really have that much time with my mom. But one guy, his name was Carl, that I did meet, and he kind of came around the time when my mom and I were starting to have some altercations. We were not getting along, and it seemed like I couldn't do anything right. And I just felt attacked. I felt like, oh, she's, I don't know what she's looking for at that time. And anyways, he was an older man. He had a place, but I didn't live there with him, but he offered a place for me if ever I needed it, because he would go to Chile. He was half Chilean and German, and he had his family out in Chile. He would go visit. However, I was wanting to, because I was definitely my mom would talk about marriage, and so I was definitely pro-marriage during that time, looking for people who I can would be okay to marry, because at that time my mom was looking for people for me to marry, me and my sister, I should say. We were around the same age. Anyways, I told her I met a guy and I wanted them to meet. And so we had scheduled a time for them to meet. It was like, she liked to go to Macy's, so he liked to go to Macy's as well. So we kind of scheduled a time for them to meet at Macy's. And my mom was waiting at the Clinique counter, and Carl was about to go to the men's department. And so they came and she saw each other. She got up and he put his hand out for her to shake his hand, and she started falling backwards, like she was gonna fall or faint. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my gosh, because she was fully awake, but it was like all her energy was being sucked out. And I went behind her to bring her closer to a stool at the Clinique counter. And she told me, as Carl, I guess, got embarrassed, I don't know, and he walked off a little bit, she said, he has a very, very deceptive spirit, Rachel. And she said he is living a double life. And she told me that he's probably married, he's this, he's that. And everything that she said was true. I had no idea until later on, but it all came true. Everything she said was true. And that was just later on, though. So I didn't listen because I had no knowledge to listen. Not knowledge, but understanding, maybe. I don't know. I just felt like I had no proof, so I can't really go on somebody's word. And anyways, I continued the relationship. He went to Chile, and at the time we were not getting along, me and my mom. So she I remember when we were in the house, she said, you know, Rachel, we can't keep living like this. She said, let us pray to God that God finds you a place to stay. And during that time, we had like a prayer room in the house. And in the prayer room, you know how Muslims have the carpets and all that stuff? Well, my mom would have the Quran, and she would still have the Bible in the front. And when she went to go get the Bible, and I was so surprised that she actually wanted to get the Bible instead of the Quran. And she said, let's put our hands on the Bible and pray that God will find you a place. And so I prayed to God, or we both prayed, and after that, I just decided to live at Carl's house because he wasn't there. And so anyways, before I go any further, I did want to say that I was starting to see things in the house. I know my mom would say, oh, I was seeing certain things in the house. However, I was starting to see things in the house, especially in the prayer room, and it did not make me want to pray. And so I remember one night she had told me, you know, why aren't you praying your prayers? You'll never be a good Muslim if you don't pray your prayers. So I would feel really bad, and I tried to make it up and pray the prayers. Let's see if I can. Okay, I'm just trying to see if there's better lighting to make up the prayers. And I did it that night, but I sensed that something, I just knew there was something there, and I did not want to pray. And anyways, I did, but I was sensing something was like praying with me or something. And you know, in the end of the prayer, the Muslim prayers, you go to one side and then the other, and I think you're just speaking to, you know, one angel and the other angel. So I went on one side, but I did not want to go on the side because I was like, I know I'm going to see something, and I did not want to see it. And I looked, and I saw this like cat-like demonic type creature. And it really, really scared me. It was sitting right there with me, like, anyways, I got up and never prayed like that again. And not too shortly after, I went over to Carl's house. Now, let me just say, I started seeing demons before I knew that they were demons, and I wasn't seeking any type of spirituality or anything like that during that time. I just knew I was not happy. I wasn't happy with Islam. I wasn't happy with any of these, you know, things. And so, but I knew there was a God. So anyway, fast forward, I moved to Carl's house because he's in Chile, and how can I say, there was a roommate downstairs. His name was Javier, and he was kind of like a worldly Christian because he did things that I never did when I was Christian. And that was, you know, he'd have girls over and this and that. And so, you know, anyways, you know, he just kind of was, you know, a partier or whatever. But I did notice that a lot of nights he would be screaming at nighttime, and I wouldn't like ever tell, like, why are you screaming or this and that? But you know, I just let it go. However, as I started seeking the Lord for myself, because now I'm outside of my mom's home. So now I'm like, do I really want to be a Muslim? And I was kind of like, because I started not trusting the religion, and I was starting to not trust people, because the very person I did trust, I felt kind of led me to a wrong place, because I wasn't really happy in Islam. And so I just did not trust people. And so I just started seeking God for myself, because I was like, God, I know you're real, but I don't know about this religion thing. I don't know what to think about it. And so I started to seek God for myself. And during that time, I asked my dad to buy me a Bible. He bought me the King James Bible. It was a study Bible. And then I went and I bought a Quran for myself. I went to mosque and I went to church. I was just seeking God, like, what do you want me to be? Like, out of the religions that believe in one God, what do you want me to be? And that was pretty much my and I also decided to buy, Solomon, because I thought they were safe. The Old Testament was safe, because all the three religions that believe in one God believe in the Old Testament. And so I thought buying the movie Solomon, King David, and Ten Commandments and all of that was safe. So I started watching those. And I remember after watching Solomon, he prayed a prayer of wisdom and understanding, and I prayed that same prayer. But during that time, my spiritual eyes, I feel like, started to become open. Even before I was really seeking God, because it was at my mom's house, they started becoming open. And one night I was sleeping, and I was awoken out of my sleep, and just in time, because there was this grotesque demonic being standing over me. He was like a type of skinny-ish type being, but he was so tall, and his fingers and his hands were so long, and they looked like nails. They were so sharp. They looked like they can right in you. They weren't necessarily like Edward Scissorhands, but you could tell that his hands were a weapon. And I woke up and his hands were over my neck, like he wanted to choke me. I did not do anything on him. I just saw a light shine over me, and that being disappeared. He went away. This happened twice. And that happened when I was in my room. And so I was like, well, one night I decided to go sleep in Carl's room. And that was worse, because when I went to sleep in Carl's room, I was again woken up and kind of where the bed was, based on where the closet was. It was across from the bathroom, because he had a sink area along the wall, and I was on the other side of the room, but it was close enough still to me, where I'm still looking, and I'm like, I saw this huge, the most grotesque creature, so distorted. His head was half his body, and one side was small, one side was big, he walked with a limp, and he was it was so disgusting, and I could not stop screaming. And he wasn't that close to me like the other demon was, the other two times. He was walking to me, and just the sight of him freaked me out so bad. And again, a light shone, and that thing disappeared. However, I could not stop screaming. And as soon as I started screaming, Javier came knocking, and he said, Rachel, what's wrong? What's going on? And he's banging on the door. I couldn't say a word. All I could do was scream. So he banged down the door and he saw that I was sitting in my bed. So he sat down on a chair next to the bed. He said, "What's wrong?" And all I can do, like, I'm still screaming, but eventually I could just form the words, I saw, and he said, "A demon." And when he said that, I was like, okay, so what's a demon? Like, somebody understood they understood, and I didn't have to say anything, because I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what to say. Was afraid to tell anybody. So I was really grateful he knew. And he said, "Rachel, I just want to let you know that almost every night since I've been here, I have been getting attacked and like choked at nighttime. And I've been trying to fend it off with the Bible." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds like the same demon I saw where he was wanting to choke me." And so he was the first person to tell me that they were demons that I was seeing. And so now fast forwarding to now I have a time where I'm seeking God, and I'm praying. I don't think I was praying the 5 prayers. Not sure, but I was praying, and I was like, I knew I was praying to God, because all I told everybody was, it's the same God. Christianity was the same God to me. And I just switched religions. Like, even in my old tapes, when I would listen to my old Christian songs, like with Mary Mary, I remember they would sing, "What a friend we have in Jesus." I would change it to, "What a friend we have in Allah." And so, to me, he was still the same God. And so, I was just really praying and seeking God on what he wanted me to be. And so when one night, as I was praying, a presence came in the room, and it was so strong, so great, so bright, that I went as far as I could go on the floor. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, he is so holy, and I am a sinner." Like, that's all I could say. And the presence got stronger and stronger, and the room got brighter and brighter. And I was like, "Oh, this is God, this is God." And so I was so excited about that time and that experience. But I did eventually go to bed, and then I'm not sure if it was the same night or another night, but I was in Carl's room at this time. And when I went to Carl's room, a light appeared at the foot of the bed, and the light was starting to form into like a human being. However, I couldn't take another spiritual experience at that time, and I started to freak out, and I put the covers over my head, because I wasn't asleep. I think I was like preparing to go to bed, because I was awake at the whole time. And so as the light was forming and the figure was forming, I put the covers over my head. I felt the light, and I saw the light shine from the back, in the covers. And I said, "Lord, please take it away. I can't take any more spiritual experiences." And I felt the light go dim, and until it left. And then the next day, my dad called me. He said, "Rachel, I feel like you need to come out here to Ohio." And so when he called me, I knew it was God, but I was so annoyed, because I remember him taking us, the time we would stay with him as Muslims, he would take us to church, and he'd have the whole church pray for us, and it was just really annoying. And So I just was not ready for people to pray over me and all these things like that. But I kind of knew it was God. And so when he picked me up from the airport, he told me, he said, I'm going to take you to church. It's going to be very early. And I was so annoyed. He's like, oh, there's someone I want you to talk to. I was so mad and so annoyed that I could not sleep that whole night. And then through the night, I heard God say, this is my will. And when I heard that everything left, and I slept, and I woke up and we went to church at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was very, very early, but there was a man there waiting for us. His name was Brother Clay. And as soon as I reached the church and I touched Brother Clay's hand to shake his hand, he started to prophesy. And he started talking about things that he's never, I knew I've never told my dad or anything. Like, I knew it was God. And so I was convinced God was talking to me. And so that later that day, and maybe later or in a book, I might give more detail, but later that day, I accepted Christ, and they asked me, do you want to speak in tongues? And I said, yeah. Both my parents spoke in tongues as I grew up, and I always wanted that gift. And so they were like, okay, we'll take you to the back room. It was a small room, and it was a fairly big church, and we'll take you to the back room and you can go ahead and have somebody pray over you. So there was 2 women that went with me initially to pray with me to speak in tongues. However, I noticed there was a trail of people following behind me. And I was like, wait a minute. And so we went in this small room, and all these people were gathering in the room. And it made it so hard for me to like focus, because I was like, oh my gosh, because now there's so much pressure. There's a lot of people, right? I'm losing my voice. I'm so sorry. I'm thirsty. Anyway, so there's a lot of people, and it made me so scared. And I didn't understand why he said it was only 2 of them that were going to pray over me. So why did all these people follow me? Little did I know the Lord wanted to prophesy through me. But I was getting attacked. I was getting attacked heavily during that time, and they were praying over me, and I felt the fire of God, and I was moving, and I felt the fire. Oh my gosh. It was so strong. And a voice was telling me, you're going to make it up. They're going to know that you're a fraud. They're going to know that you made it up. Don't say a word. And I just kept my mouth closed. And as soon as I heard that and did that, that's when the lady said, give it voice. Give it voice. And I was like, and I started to give it voice, and I started to speak in tongues, and I started to speak in tongues, and then there was a word that came to me, and I can remember it to this day. It was Ashandale Messiah, Ashandale Messiah, and I said that. I don't know how many times I said it, among other things, and I did not want to look up afterwards. Like, after I said it, I did not want to look up, because I'm like, they're going to all look at me and say, you made that up. You're a fraud. You're not this. You're not that. And there was a lady who came up to me and sat right next to me. And she said, do you want to know what you just said? I said something? She said, I'm a tongues interpreter, and you said that Jesus Christ is coming soon. And I'm sure I know I said other things, but I believe that word was specifically for the people who came to the room and with me, because I still believe that Ashandale Messiah means Jesus is coming back soon. And as soon as that word came to me, I remembered that my mom used to say that every morning as she was speaking in tongues. She would sing, and I would love this, like how she would sing and she would praise the Lord and speak in tongues. And I remember a Chandelier Messiah. It's not like I remembered any of that until that day. So it was definitely the Lord. Anyway, I still was a little bit unsettled because I was not ready to tell people that I was seeing demons. And so but my dad, the Lord used my dad, and he said, I feel like you need to be mentored by Sister Haynes. And Sister Haynes at the time was the church deliverance worker. And I knew that that was the Lord. And because I was not ready to tell people about what I was going through, what I was seeing, unless they kind of knew, like had an idea. Because when I grew up, a lot of it was in the Baptist church. They only taught us about Satan, angels, and God. But nobody really told us about demons. And so I didn't have that much knowledge. I think I learned a little bit from Islam where they're talking about jinns or something. But the way I felt like my mom was telling me was, oh, it was just you or something, like that's your spirit or something like that, and that's how bad you are. I don't know. It was like some kind of, it was a wrong understanding. I'm going to be honest. So I can't speak on it. So I had no real understanding. So when he said that I can be mentored by the church deliverance worker, Sister Haynes, I was so grateful. And during that time, I just was immersed in worship and prayer, and she did deliverance on me. She taught me about deliverance and demons, and so that was my introduction into Christianity. I would probably say spiritual Christianity, because it was just another level of Christianity that I had never known even before. I was spiritual before, with a relationship with God, but I did not have enough knowledge spiritually. And this, I'm still learning, but this has been such a great experience. I did get baptized when I went back to college. I found a church and I got baptized. And so anyway, I guess that's it. That's my story. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I thank you for sticking with me. It was kind of a long video, but I'm happy I got it out after other many attempts. Okay, God bless you guys. See you later.